The impermanence of beings living in the universe. From the summit of the highest heavens to the very depths of hell, there is not a single being who can escape death. As the letter of consolation says, have you ever, on earth or in the heavens, seen a being born who will not die, or heard that such a thing had happened, or even suspected that it might? Everything that is born is bound to die. Nobody has ever seen anyone, or heard of anyone in any realm, even in the world of the gods, who was born but never died. In fact, it never even occurs to us to wonder whether a person will die or not. It is a certainty. Especially for us, born as we are at the end of an era, asterisk, the end of an era is a period of decline in which life is more fragile. So at the end of an era, in a world where the length of life is unpredictable, death will come soon. It gets closer and closer from the moment we are born. Life can only get shorter, never longer. Inexorably, death closes in, never pausing for an instant, like the shadow of a mountain at sunset. Do you know for sure when you will die or where? Might it be tomorrow or tonight? Can you be sure that you're not going to die right now between this breath and the next? As it says in the collection of deliberate sayings, who's sure he'll live till tomorrow? 2 days the time to be ready. For the legions of death are not on our side. And Nagarjuna too says, life flickers in the flurries of 1,000 ills, more fragile than a bubble in a stream. In sleep, each breath departs and is again drawn in. How wondrous that we wake up living still. Breathing gently, people enjoy their slumber. But between one breath and the next, there is no guarantee that death will not slip in. To wake up in good health is an event which truly deserves to be considered miraculous. Yet we take it completely for granted. So this is from Words of My Perfect Teacher, a complete translation of a classic introduction to Tibetan Buddhism by Patrul Rinpoche. And that is on page 41 of the edition that I've got, which we are studying in the 100-day Lojong, or mind training, that I'm participating in with Tolku Sanak from Santa Fe. You can find out more about that at their website, ewam, as in Mary.org. I think he's got a couple of different centers. One of them is in Santa Fe. So that's a weekly webcast. And I've actually been there in person a couple of times and taken teachings from him and had consultations with him. So interestingly enough, when I went last month, there was one of the teachers in our Dzogchen community who was there and had actually been a big contributor to this Lama's stupa building project. So I knew I was in the right place when I ran into one of my teachers, students who teach, and he was there taking teachings from this Lama. So it's the real deal, the mind training and how to focus the mind on the Dharma so that we can develop the qualities that the teachings prescribe. And for me, that's a vital necessity. I don't even know how long, a long time, but I started Zen in around 90, 91, and did that for a good 15 years. And I've been with the Tibetans since 2005, so 11 years on that in closing. So coming up on 19 years of sobriety, December 4th, 2016, which is in the future for me at the time of this recording. And, the process of recovery for me as a 12-step Buddhist, as a Buddhist who engages in 12 steps, And in other aspects of recovery, the process continues to be exactly, in principle, exactly the same as I wrote about it in the first book, in the 12-Step Buddhist, 2009. And a typical day, for example, yesterday, a Barry's boot camp class for an hour, which is, high intensity interval training on the treadmill and on the doing core workouts or weights. An hour of that, followed by a hot yoga class, ongoing meditation, daily practice of pranayama, breathing practice, regular purification rituals, psychotherapy, and now couples psychotherapy. Couples, I'd say counseling, but it's really emotionally focused couple therapy, EFT. I'm working with that. And I've started taking CBD, cannabidol, which could be controversial, but I'm not. I have no doubt about its use and value to help me with the PTSD and to calm my state of high distress that I find myself in as the result of childhood of chaos and trauma, and then an ongoing life of inflicting my own trauma on myself. So going to the Zen centers a lot. I've been to, I think, 4 or 5 different Zen centers that I've been going to for the past couple of months, and just really returning to that practice of keeping it simple, resting in the space. Interestingly, I did a session the other day at a Zen center where the teacher asked me, have you ever done Big Mind? And I explained, well, yeah, I didn't call it Big Mind, but it was from Genpo Roshi, the aspects of self-dialogue practice, which I did for years, a good solid 5 years of retreats and workshops, weekly groups in Portland, Oregon, and so forth. And but I never really had anybody do it with me that much, so no one who was a skilled facilitator at any rate. So she goes, yeah, let's do a little bit of it. So we did the voice of confusion, speaking as the voice of confusion. And, it's the same, typical principles. What's your job? What's your function? How do you feel about the self? Are you appreciated? So on and so forth. And moved into don't know mind, or the mind that doesn't know, something like that, which is a very Zen kind of orientation. And the mind of the voice of the integrated self, and then back to me. So that was pretty interesting, because I hadn't done any of that in a while with anyone. I certainly hadn't done it for myself. So kind of going through a lot lately, and that was very powerful and very interesting to go back to the cushion and sit silently in the space of now. And just kind of notice, am I, coming from don't know mind, or am I coming from confusion? Without really going into like analysis mode and being like super driven to solve the problem, So, the CBD is really, really helpful for that purpose. So a couple of drops, I don't know, maybe 5 milligrams or so. And I'm going to be putting out some articles. I'm going to do an ebook on this and put that out for people in recovery to give you information and dispel confusion. And I can tell you where to get it. And you can contact me if you want to find out where to get the right kind, and help you figure out the right amounts and so forth. But I just take a tiny bit, really micro amounts. I'm super sensitive to things, so I don't know, 5 milligrams, 3 to 7 milligrams or something. It's kind of hard to measure in the dropper, but it's not psychoactive, but it does create a calm state where you can sit and go into a Zen space without, spending the first part of the hour just, dealing with the, for me at least, dealing with the intense energy and the emotions and so forth. So it really is a meditation tool. And from what I'm told from the distributor, manufacturer, nobody's really working with it that way. So I don't know, maybe if you are, shoot me an email and let me know. DarrenB.Littlejohn@gmail.com. And I take a little bit of it before yoga, before therapy, and wow, it's really, really interesting to be able to get into a little bit of a calm space and then get a little bit of clarity and focus and go deeper. I mean, I really go deep into my practice, especially working with dreams. So one of the practices that I'm doing is to have a little bit of CBD. I mean, and it lasts, like 8 to 12 hours, depending on how much you take and how strong it is and what have you, and the method by which you take it. But to go into dream space, and I use the Binaural Beats, so I can't really afford to do EMDR therapy right now. I want to, but I don't have that ability. So I'm using the Binaural Beats, which is it's an iPhone program, iPhone app, which I've had for years, and have used at different time frames. But you put on headphones and you listen to it. You do some sort of focused relaxation, and doing that, it's like it helps. When you're in high distress, it's really amazing and powerful to just have a few seconds of relief. But to get that relief without checking out and winding up, handcuffed to a light pole in Tijuana, without, to be in control of yourself and to be able to get them, and without having these weird side effects of all these psychotropics and antidepressants, antipsychotics, mood stabilizers, and all this. I mean, I've tried them all. Well, I've tried a lot of them, and really going into a space of calmness, and then doing your work. I mean, so it doesn't take the pain away, but it does kind of help the brain stop firing so hard and so loud, and so you can do some work, which is really the purpose of the psychotropic medication in the first place. You take antidepressants so that you can go, that deals with the symptoms, but you take those so that you can go do talk therapy or whatever. And, so my practice involves doing this meditation, yoga, intense exercise. And I just drove a neuroscientist. We had a neuroscience convention here in San Diego this past weekend. And one of my Uber passengers was a neuroscientist from Singapore, and we talked a lot about neuroplasticity and the ability of the brain. What is neuroplasticity, and how does it work, and how are we growing new cells, or are we just strengthening the neurosynaptic connections between different neurons so that we can create new pathways or enhance better pathways, or pathways that were there that were healthy. It's a little bit confusing, but science is a little bit in the dark with it, but beginning this whole process. And I'm certain, like the Dalai Lama, MIT, and all that, they've done a lot of work with this. Vander Polk and various other trauma, people and so forth, really studying this kind of thing, and attachment theory, and working with the different aspects of what we do know based on hard science in the brain. There are things that we know, and the brain can grow new cells, but as you get older, it's way more limited. So it depends on how much you've been traumatized, and what you've been through, and what you're willing to do, and how much of a kind of a good ground and base that you have, I suppose. But I'm hopeful and optimistic that anyone can be helped with the practice of Dharma, and sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them all. We're not leaving anybody out in that Bodhisattva vow, and certainly not those of us who've been through it. I mean, as I've said all along, those of us who've been through it are prime candidates for realization, for Buddhahood, because we really do see the cycle of suffering. So the process of working with trauma, working with agitation, working with mood disturbance and so forth, by going for an intense run, doing some deep progressive breathing practices, and talking about it, doing a creative endeavor. Like for me, I write. Tons of new articles out anyways, you guys. New book out. We'll talk about that in a second. But look on the Huffington Post. And I'm going to try to be putting some things out on other places like Addiction Blog and the other addiction sites, as well as Elephant Journal, but they're a little bit, depends on what's current. I wrote a cool article called Trump is Buddha. You may want to check that out. That's in the Huffington Post. Read it. Just read the whole article before you comment, and consider it before you react. So, yeah, I mean, the process of recovery and at the end of my 19th year here and using all these tools, it continues to be, wow, just really challenging. And I go to a solid AA meeting, which has old timers with, 20, 30 or more years. And we read the book and we comment, and we don't really, nobody preaches. It's a solid group, and it's tough to find, for me, it's been tough to find solid groups. And I go to Al-Anon at least once a week. I've got a solid group there where we talk about relationships and kind of codependency and so forth. So, I'm a little bit all over the map with what I'm talking about on this podcast. Haven't done one in a bit. I always have these breaks, but people are always, in fact, a lady from Al-Anon I saw on Facebook, and I said, wow, how do I know you? And, oh, yeah, Al-Anon. And I saw her at Al-Anon. I go, when were we Facebook friends? And she's like, well, I used to listen to your podcast, And so we've been Facebook friends for a long time. And I thought, wow, cool. There's a person in person. And so, kind of the overview of what's going on for me is continuing to do the work and continuing to use a multifaceted, comprehensive recovery program that utilizes and incorporates and synthesizes and integrates all different aspects and all different tools, systems, traditions, leaving no stone left unturned, but making a solid commitment to trying things out. And I've been doing Zen for 25 plus years. Like I said, I've been doing Tibetan stuff for over a decade, and Shamanic Work. I had a great shamanic session with Rosemary Beam. You should find her, rosemarybeam.com. She's amazing and just a fantastic energy healer. Whoops, sorry. Touched the mic here. So I'm recording this on my iPhone headset because I don't have my iRig mic, so hopefully it doesn't sound too crappy. It should be good because it's an iPhone 7 Plus, the new headphones, so hopefully. But yeah, I make offerings. I burn incense. I have an altar. I try to practice every moment that I can remember to practice, and I take my various medicines, and the other medicine that I have is the Vimala, which is from the Tibetans. It's I would call it an herbal supplement, but it's like 108 ingredients that are like connected to the tantras of Tibetan medicine and really related to ritual practice. So I mean, taking these types of medications and working through meditations is really my saving grace, and continuing to do the meetings and so forth. So that's what I'm up to. If you want to know about the new book, okay, go to gainnothing.com. The title of the book is How to Gain Nothing from Buddhist Practice. And the print edition just came out. The Kindle edition's been out since September. It is on Amazon for pre-order up until December 1st when it will go live. So please pre-order it if you're listening to this prior to December 1st, 2016. That helps the Amazon algorithm keep it in a good place in the rankings, so forth. But yeah, this book came about as the result of a talk I gave for Worldwide Insight, which I actually just did another talk for Worldwide Insight. You can Google that. I just did another talk a few days ago, I think last Saturday, and the video is posted. And we practice the Guru Yoga of Padmasambhava in that. Actually, I think it's a really good talk. I think I was pretty clear, and hopefully you'd find that helpful. And I do talk about all these other tools that I've been using and so forth, and where to find them and that sort of thing. But this was a talk that I gave, and I don't know, I just kind of opened my eyes and grabbed a cup of coffee and opened up a Longchenpa book and started reading and talking. And I thought, well, why don't I transcribe that and make a quick ebook out of it? Well, I don't know, 9 months later, I had a manuscript that was, now it's 200 pages Had to explain what I was talking about, set it up, explain it, give practices so that you could really internalize and integrate the principles, and then summarize it. So everything kind of flashed out from a talk that was a little bit loose and random to kind of a beginning, middle, and end on really how to gain nothing, what that means in the relative and absolute sense. So I like the book. When I listen to the audiobook, which should be out by the end of November here, up on Amazon, if not soon. The lady's really got a great voice, and I love listening to her read my book. So it's super fun. It's like hearing somebody else, it's like hearing somebody else's work. So I'm going to read a little piece of this. Let me see. I'm going to start in the middle of a paragraph on page 75. An attainment in meditation manifests as the fruit of your meditation. These fruits can range from having less problems in daily life to magical powers such as clairvoyance. I say to find a master and check with him or her because it's very easy for a master to see all your karma, past lives, dreams, and future. They're impossible to bullshit. We can deceive ourselves so easily. So to have a real teacher is indispensable to obtain nothing from Buddhist practice. However, if you are open enough and intuitive enough to receive, even your sophomore yoga teacher can trigger answers deep within you, even if they're unaware of it or quoting from a book. I've had a lot of accidental breakthroughs in classes like that. I read in a Zen book once that you can learn everything from a blade of grass. When the yogi is ready, the simple can be profound. Puzzles. If we pose the question, who's meditating, we might spend considerable lifetimes looking for an answer, trying to discover the real meaning. If we find our Zen, these questions dissolve. But then we lose our Zen and doubt arises. This cycle is called samsara. It only ends if we practice, and which can take anywhere from an instant to a trillion lifetimes. Buddhists always talk in terms of those, kalpas and eons and so forth. Does that mean we gain something from practice? Hint, that is a koan. A koan is a puzzle. Here are some examples. Where is my body? Where does it begin? What are its boundaries? What part of my physical experience is the most real? Pain, pleasure, numbness? If I lost part of my body, where would my real body be? Am I my body? If my body were broken and doctors came up with a way to give me a new one, would I say yes? I borrowed that from the Dalai Lama. Who would inhabit the new body? Meditation usually begins at the level of physical experience. It's the easiest gate to enter for some of us. We can notice the experience of the body, and as we observe it, we eventually come to some kind of insight. The insight that we come to is that the physical body doesn't really exist. This could happen instantly if we have the karma for it, or it could take a very long time. It's hard to say. But we can begin. So that's from my new book. It's got practices, it's got a setup for you to kind of mix and match and create your own little practice session. I tell you how to do it. It's got a little glossary, a lot of good quotes, and very, very specific exercises, journaling, and so forth. So I was looking for the table of contents, but I can't get it with one hand. We talk about the two accumulations, the Four Noble Truths. Anyways, emptiness. It's all empty, man. Nothing really exists. Even though it exists, it doesn't really exist. That's the koan. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Anyways, I'm at 24 minutes. Really went over. And I hope to do more podcasts as we go here. I want to just get this one out, even though I didn't have all my gear and the timing wasn't perfect. So go to gainnothing.com. Go to Amazon. You can get the book from me on the Gain Nothing site. You can get the ebooks in both formats. And the audiobook will be out soon. And please leave Amazon reviews. That helps me a lot. And as we go, our random winners will be selected to receive cool t-shirts and mugs, which I have on the swag section of gainnothing.com. And as always, you can reach out to me for coaching or Skype sessions, group or individual, and I'm happy to help. You can reach me at darrenblittlejohn@gmail.com or on Facebook, at Twitter at 12-Step Buddhist, all the usual places. So until then, everybody, be wellness.